You already know you're in the right place. We're going to talk about the Colorado Buffaloes' hellacious 2024 schedule. And we're also going to talk about Deion Sanders' state of transfers right now and the culture they're trying to build and how much I think is going to help them in 2024. And you know what? Let's just start there. We got a whole bunch of transfers coming. I think Deion has just transformed how you use it. People have used it a little bit in the past, but he's like doubled down on it. And he showed this is normal. You know, you get to somewhere, you're going to have, over 50 some transfers. I don't think that's going to happen this year because there's a core part of the team, but it's still going to be a high number of people that have come in, and you've seen it. Whether it's the Twins, whether he's got the linemen completely transformed, the offensive linemen, they know what they're looking for. They know how Shedeur wants to play, how the offense wants to play. And we'll see if it's completely different offense, whether it's Pat Shermer or somebody else comes in. But they're still going to have that core nucleus of, okay, these are the high percentage plays for Shedeur. This is how we need the line to block, and these are the characteristics we need to have. Just like if you saw the Coach Prime Season 2 Amazon 1, they go through each position and say what they're looking for. Now they can actually see it. They have a process, and they have a whole new offensive line, which I think Shedeur is going to love. All right. So why is this important coming into the spring? This is their second spring rolling into the second season, and it's going to start before you know it. When I tell you, when I played in January, we were getting like mat drill requests. Like, look, you already know, the beginning of February is on, and then you're gonna train, and then March you're gonna put the pads on, and the spring game gonna be there, and then it goes into summer. It's really a year-round sport, just to be real. That's why kids are starting to get paid, because this shit's a job. Nevertheless, why is it important for the transfers to come in this spring? Because there's actually culture. And I don't care if people think that's just fluff. I don't know in every job industry, but in a football world, culture really means a lot. And it really showed in some of the games last year. You had all the talent, but they didn't have the culture because they were all new. Yeah, you had the direction set by Coach Prime and the coaching staff, but the kids got to buy in, and that's really hard when there's no culture. Because there was the only culture that was there before was 1 and 11, and they basically got rid of all those kids. So now you're bringing together a whole bunch of kids from all different places, and they don't know what exactly the Colorado culture is as far as football team. And now that's set in stone. We come in now, we're here, there's an expectation, and the expectation is excellence. You got a whole bunch of NFL guys there that know how to get to the next level, and we want you to get after it. We want to throw the ball, and we want to be balanced, okay? And then we want to win those tight ball games. That's what was missing this past year in tight ball games, whether it's Arizona, whether it was Stanford. They just didn't get it done and facing higher competition. When they played Colorado State, they were able to out-talent them. When they played Nebraska at the second week of the season, they were able to out-talent them. And they caught TCU flat-footed because they didn't have any film on all these different kids. They only could piece it together. And I think that really made the difference. But as you saw throughout the season, people get game tape. People are really good. This is a billion-dollar industry. The defensive analysts, defense coordinators, these are $1 million jobs, and their lives are depending on this. So they are on each and every thing the offense does, every tendency, and that started to show itself. So when teams go against that kind of adversity, where they know what you want to do and they know how you do it and what you do well, they're going to take that stuff away, and it becomes harder. So that's when you lean back on culture to say, hey, I know this kid. I know how this kid's going to respond. And I need him to know, just for instance, the defensive end or defensive tackle. That left tackle or left guard is beating your ass. And we need you to overcome that. Prime example, the Stanford game, I think Coach Prime, Coach Kelly, and some other defensive personnel coaches got into it really bad with the cornerback Omarion. And this is what I mean is a perfect example of how next year that culture is going to be in place. You are coming off the field and you're getting into it, going back and forth with your coach. If you don't have a culture, that's what is going to happen. Your coach has to come in and try to motivate you or try to argue with you, and it's very disappointed with you and needs you to play better. When you have that kind of infrastructure, the players do that. That's why you see on Georgia or even in NFL with better teams, the players are doing that. They are making and holding that person accountable. You can't really do that when you just met the person, a few months ago. But when you have that trust, when you earn that trust with your player, really your coworker, but your brother, hey bro, you are getting your ass whooped by this left tackle. You need to work on your hand placement, do another thing. We need you to be accountable. We need you to be in your specific gap. And that Omarion situation I'm describing, I think he just played the coverage wrong, and he might have jumped a route or whatever when he shouldn't have done that, and that cost him in that particular moment. When you have that infrastructure, that holding people accountable, that back and forth happens with the players on the field before it gets to the sideline. So when you get to the sideline, your coach is like, they right. Now this is what we need you to do, so they can actually coach. When they fussing back and forth with you, they can't talk to you about hand placement. They can't talk to you about tendencies. They can't talk to you about down and distance, because you and your feelings and you arguing back and forth. And before you know it, you have no idea. Like a head coach has to go to the next series. The defensive coaches have to get everybody else ready. So in that moment, they can't really coach you. You frustrated and you back on the field before you know it. Especially last year when the offense was doing 3 and outs. You're back on the field before you know it, and you're getting fussed at again. That's why it's important you have a core nucleus of the team knowing what the team needs, and they know from past experience this past season what it's going to take to get over the hump. And it's going to take me getting in your shit to make you accountable. So before you get off the field, I'm going to yell at your ass, and when you get to the coaches, all they're going to do is coach. They don't need to inspire you because your brother just inspired. They don't need to tell you need to step it up because your brother just did that. And you need to be held accountable and do your gap control, and then the coaches can show you on their iPads or Microsoft Surfaces what you're doing wrong and how you can take advantage. And that takes the emotion out of going back and forth. You just get prepared for the next series. And I think that's going to pay dividends seriously in the next season, because it's going to be a really big one. But let's look at the next season. Colorado 24 football schedule is just, you would think it kind of has a little tail off from going from the Pac-12, because it was the most ranked teams in college last year at one time, to the Big 12. And the Big 12, they got a bunch of games that they're going to have to pack their lunch for. And it starts with North Dakota State. North Dakota State is an FCS team that should have been a D1 school 10 years ago. When I transferred and I played at a smaller school, we played North Dakota State in a playoff game. Them boys know how to play. And remember, that's what Carson Wentz came out of. That's what Trey Lance came out of. And they have a number of NFL football players that come out of the program. They've been dominant for decades. So that's not an easy game. Let me tell you, that is not going to be an easy game. So they're going to have to bring their lunch. And if they flat-footed, especially their first game of the season, trying to fill each other out, they're going to be in a dogfight. So they got to come overly prepared. Then they travel to Nebraska. That is going to be a hostile work environment, all right? Nebraska, rivalry game already. Everybody knows what happened last year. Everything that's coming into it, all of a sudden it's going to be personal again. Then you come back and you got to go on the road again. It's a quicker road game to Colorado State, and you already know all the back and forth that happened. With Travis Hunter getting knocked out with a lacerated liver, to Shedeur having to fight Colorado State Rams players between plays and dealing with cheap shots. It's just a rivalry game, and everybody's going to remember that, and everybody's going to be watching the game. And Colorado State is going to put, like, a lot of their spring and summer, I guarantee you, are going to have that tape of, we were right there. We could have beat that Colorado team. We want to put it to Coach Prime. So within the first 3 weeks, you're going to have to bring your lunch, all right? North Dakota State, again, is not is a dominant FCS team. It's not going to be easy pushover. Nebraska rivalry game. Remember what happened last year. Matt Rule has more tape, and they're going to try to get after it. Colorado State, they just don't like you. They want to win, and with those rivalries, the scores, the stats don't matter. The score is going to be close anyway. So it's tough. And then you add on the hottest team in college football at the end of the season was the Arizona Wildcats, all right? And you got to go to Arizona. My goodness. I mean, it's a really tough stretch. The first 4 games are a really tough stretch. Then you go, Utah comes to Colorado. So you really don't have a home game. So you go from August to 1, 2, 3. You go 3 weeks being on the road. And then you got Utah at home. Again, Utah's going to be a decent program. They always rank Cam Rising's 18th year. He's going to be super prepared. So you're going to have to, there's no exotic blitz you're going to come up with Cam Rising when you have those super seniors like that. They're basically NFL players, and they're going to play really well. Then you have Baylor Bears coming in. I think Baylor is going to be, you never know. Baylor, sometimes they have a surprising year, but I know they've been down the last few, and I don't know if they're going to fire the head coach, the former defensive coordinator at LSU. I think his name was Arnada, but we'll see how that goes. I think they should win that game. Oklahoma State. Let me tell you, one thing Mike Gundy loves to do, if you have any national championship aspirations, like Coach Prime has said, hey, the playoffs going to be bigger next year. I want to be in that bracket. If you have national championship aspirations, the person that loves to F that up is Mike Gundy. My gosh, he will throw a wrench in your shit every time. Whether he could beat Oklahoma, he'll mess around and beat Clemson, and they can't be consistent throughout the year to be in the national championship themselves, but they will mess up your hopes. So Oklahoma State's always been athletic. They've always had stability. They always play well. So they're going to be coming into Colorado, but still it's going to be a tough game. Kansas State Wildcats, my gosh. If you want to talk about a year in, year out physical football team that's going to beat your ass, it will be Kansas State, all right? Now, I know their quarterback is in the transfer portal, so it'll be a little bit, different. We'll see how they are at the end of the year, but that's going to be a tough game. Cincinnati Bearcats. Cincinnati, almost trying to hire Prime from what I know. But Cincinnati's always been an athletic kind of program. We'll see where they are. They're not dominant as they were 2-3 years ago. Kansas Jayhawks. I'm going to tell you, Jalen Edwards, if he's back, he's like Cam Ward. You know how Cam Ward did y'all up there in Washington State. He's in that kind of mold. So be careful. And you got to go to Kansas. Then you go to Texas Tech. Texas Tech is always a middle-of-the-road program. Sometimes they're better than good, especially when Pat Mahomes and them were there. But they were 6-6 this past season. I think they're about to play in a bowl game. They gave Oregon a run for their money, for sure. For sure. If you remember that game, I think it was week 2 of this prior season. Oregon went to Texas Tech and almost lost, so they play well up there in Lubbock, so don't sleep on them. And then you end the goddamn season against the UCF Knights. Let me tell you, that program is always on the rise, like always on the rise. It's a fantastic place to play. I've seen it up class in person. They're gonna show out. They always have a prepared offense. That coach has a SEC pedigree. He's not afraid of anybody. He's going to play and have his team ready. And UCF would love, especially if they have a good season, would love to send Colorado out with a loss. So this is a tough ass schedule. So don't think it's going to be an easy cakewalk schedule coming into Big 12. It's just as competitive as their schedule last year. That means you're going to have to keep shedeur upright. You're going to have to keep your skill players ready to go. What I love about them bringing in the twins is, you have a more competent backup that's more suited for the offense they have. I think the issue with Staub being the backup, the offense wasn't his offense. He wasn't a similar player as Shedeur. I think the twins that they brought in for the quarterback from Kentucky is more in the Shedeur mold. So keeping the quarterbacks healthy, keeping the skill players healthy, and really, really being able to run the football. I can't tell. You're playing Nebraska, Colorado State, Arizona, Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Texas Tech. I'll put them in there. And you end at UCF. I can't tell you how imperative you're going to need to run the football in all those games. Kansas State is a physical ass team, all right? You can't just keep going 3 and outs and expecting your defense to hold up, because that's how they got in trouble last year with Oregon State. Oregon State kept running the ball, and when the offense went 3 and out, the defense gets tired, and then all of a sudden those running plays that are 3 yards, 4 yards pop, and then they're going 20, 30, 40 to the house. So you need to take care of your defense. There was a fantastic defense. There's going to be a lot of continuity because Coach Kelly's coming back. They're going to have a better system. They're going to have better players, especially at the edge, better personnel. You're going to have Hall of Fame Coach Sapp. You're going to have a lot of different NFL people and analysts ready to help those kids, but you have to help your defense by running the football and being just as physical. I can't wait for the new season, though. It's going to be a tough schedule, but I know if anybody is going to rise to the occasion, it's going to be the Colorado Buffaloes and Coach Prime. Heritage Sports.